The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hey, thank you for joining, guys. My name is Sharat Tamanna, working in a company called Theorem India Private Limited from past 4+ years. In the last session, I have given an introduction about the Pardot, how to install the Pardot App Exchange package, how to apply Pardot connected user permission sets, how to create Salesforce connectors and verify that connectors in Pardot, and we have enabled the features which is necessary for our requirements in Pardot. In this session, I will show how to configure Salesforce for the Salesforce Pardot connector requirements. During this configuration, I'm going to add the Pardot component to the lead and the contact page layout. And the next step, I will create a custom field in Salesforce and Pardot. Then we will see how the sync is happening between both the platforms. For that, first you need to log into Salesforce. Once you install the AppExchange application, it adds the Pardot fields and the Visualforce pages in Salesforce. From that, you can add the fields which is necessary for you into the contact and the lead layout. Before going to do that, first you need to map the Pardot custom lead field to the contact field which is necessary for you to sync between on both the objects. For that, first you need to go to the object manager, search for lead object, click the fields in relationship. Since you need to map the fields, click the map lead fields. Here you can see on the left hand side all the leads fields. On the right hand side we have account fields, but now we want the lead fields to be synced up with the contact fields. That's why we need to click the contact tab, and you can add which are all the fields which is necessary for you to sync between on both the objects. For example, by default you need to add Pardot score, Pardot grade, Pardot hard bounce, Pardot last activity. These are all the default fields. You need to add these default fields at any cost. One important note is that don't map the Pardot URL field, because if you're going to map between the lead field and the Pardot contact field, this will create a duplicate prospects and breaks the Visualforce pages. Don't map this. Once this is done, click it as save. The next step is how to add the fields which is necessary for you to contact and the lead layout. For that, go to first you need to search for lead object, or if you're doing for contact object, you need to search for contact object. Next, click the page layout of that. Now I'm doing only for the lead layout. Click the lead layout. Since we are adding the fields of Pardot or another Google Analytics fields, we need to create a separate section to see that. But that's why I have drag and drop one new section. I will name that as pardot. This is as per your requirements. If you want to display the fields in a single column, you can use this one. If you want to display the fields in two columns, you can use this one. Whenever you drag and drop the fields, if you want to be in from left to right, you can use this. If you want to top to bottom, you can use this. Once this is done, click OK. Now, these are all the fields which is generated when you install the Pardot App Exchange applications. You can add the fields which is necessary for you: the Pardot grade, Pardot score, Pardot URL, Pardot last score, Pardot created date, Pardot conversion, Pardot hard bounced, Pardot campaign. If you need any Google Analytics fields, you can add those as well. Once this is done, click it as save. Now I need to add the one more section based on the list membership. Again, go to lead layout, add one more section. I will name this as list membership. Click it as OK. Scroll to Visualforce pages. You can see the Pardot list membership, Pardot social data. You can add those fields to this section. The Pardot social data will gather the information by using the full contact connectors. If you use the full contact connector, it will automate the prospects and check for the social profile lookups based on the email address. For example, if that person is in LinkedIn, this will capture, the full contact connector will capture the profile of that through LinkedIn. If he is in Facebook, that's how it's going to work. Once this is done, click it as save. The first step is we have mapped the lead fields to the contact field, and the second step is we have add the Pardot proprietary fields which is necessary for your business purpose, and we have add the list membership and the social data. The third step is you need to add the custom Pardot buttons to the Salesforce page layout. This Pardot button makes it easy to add the Salesforce leads or the contacts to Pardot directly from the Salesforce. For that, you need to first go to the campaign object, search for the campaign object, go to button links and actions. Since you need to create a button, if you want to create new, you need to click create button or link. Add to Pardot list. If you want, you can add the description. The display type is select detail page button. From the behavior drop down, select display in existing window with sidebar. From the content source drop down, you can select the URL and you can paste that campaign's URL. For that, I will select one of the campaign URL. From Pardot. You have to add that URL in this block. Now you can see once it is saved, that button is created and you can add this button to lead layout as well as contact layout. Again, you need to go to lead layout. Scroll to buttons. Here you can see add to Pardot list is created. You can add this list to the buttons which we have created now. Add to Pardot list, send to Pardot, send Pardot email, send to Pardot. Like this, once you've created the button, you can add the fields which is necessary for you. Why this is done? It will segment the prospect from Salesforce with one click by adding a button to your Salesforce campaign page layout directly. That is the main advantages from this adding button. And the next thing is we need to add the scoring category scores for the page layout. For that, again, you need to use the lead layout. I'm doing only for the lead layouts. You have to do the same thing for the contact layouts as well. Go to related list. In the related list, we have a field name called Pardot category score. You can drag and drop that Pardot category score. Up to here, what I have done, this is the general requirements with respect to the lead or a contact layout with the Salesforce to be configured. Once this is done, click the save button. Now the Salesforce is configured. And the next step is we need to create a custom field in Salesforce and we need to map that custom field to Pardot and how the sync is going to happen. We need to check that one. For creating a custom field in Salesforce, this custom field is based on your business requirements. Once you have created a custom field, you need to sync that field to the Pardot. For that, again, you need to go to Object Manager, go to the lead layout, go to Fields and Relationships. Click the new field. Here you can see all the data types which you have created in Salesforce. But all these data types are not worked in Pardot as well. There will be only some data types is going to work. I will explain that in the after this demo, which all of the data types will work. Now I will create a data type by using pick list. I will give the name as mobile only. The field name will be mobile. You need to add the pick list values in a separate lines. After that, if you want, you can add the description and the help text. Whenever the customers don't know what is the field description, if he is owing to that field, he can see that description and he will get to know what that field will do. Once this is done, click the next. Now the field is created and it will ask for the field level security, which are all the users can see this field on Salesforce. Since this is not a very important field, I will make this to visible for all the users. And once this is done, the field is created in the lead layout. You need to do the same thing for the contact layout as well. Once the custom field is created in Salesforce, now we need to create that custom field in Pardot and we need to sync that field. Go back to slides. By default, the Pardot proprietary fields will automatically match. For example, the field name will includes the first name, last name, email, do not email, phone number, address, opted out fields. These are all the default fields. You don't have to worry about these default fields. The custom fields you have to worry about, you have to map it over manually. There is no way that you have import and sync it directly. If you want the custom fields to be used for any Pardot instance to pass the information back and forth, you need to make sure that sync over to them into the Pardot. When it comes to the custom field requirements, the prospect field must be on a lead or a contact record in Salesforce. Remember, the prospects in Pardot are in contact or the lead record from Salesforce. Whenever the fields you are used in Salesforce, you have to use them in Pardot and map it manually. And the second important point is field has to exist in Salesforce before it can be mapped in Pardot. That's why we have created a custom field in a Salesforce first. Now we are going to create the same field in Pardot and we will see how the sync is going to happen. Log into Pardot. Admin, configure fields, go to prospect fields. You can see the custom fields at the top. If you go down, you can see the default fields. You don't have to worry about these default fields because this will be mapped automatically. This is the field name which is created in Pardot. This is the field name which is created in Salesforce. It will map automatically once you create it. But default field doesn't work like that. You have to map it manually. For that, since we have already created a custom field in Salesforce, we need to create the same custom field in Pardot and we need to see. I have created in the name of mobile. If you click this drop down, you have to see that field which is created in Salesforce. Please, mobile. I think you can't see here. Why you can't see here is it needs at least 2 minutes to sync, and the data is going to vice versa. It needs to take at least 2 minutes. I think we need to wait for 1 more minute. By that time, I will explain the sync behavior option. You have an option like sync behavior. What will the sync behavior do this is you have the ability to choose which value you would like to keep whenever the data sync happens. Remember, the data sync occurs for every 2 minutes. You have an option like Salesforce value. If you want to use the Salesforce value, which is common one, at that time you can use the Salesforce value. You have an option of Pardot value. If you want to use the Pardot value, you can select that option. And the third one is use the most recently updated record. This means that the fields that constantly updated on both the platform, I want to use the most recented updated record value. At that time, you need to use the most recented updated records. If you haven't selected any of this, by default, it will take the Salesforce value. Once this is done, now we will check whether that field is created here. I think I need to refresh it again. And one more thing you can see here, if you see the underscore C, these are the custom fields which is created. Without underscore C, which all the fields were there, these are all the normal default fields. I think I need to refresh to see that field. By that time, I will select any other field. This is only for the testing purpose. You can see now it is asking for the sync the prospects on both Salesforce and Pardot. If you sync, if anything is updated on either platform, it will update it to that field automatically. This is how the custom field is going to create in Salesforce and Pardot, and the sync is going to happen between both these platforms. The custom field types which we have created for account fields, prospect fields, and the opportunity fields. And now it is showing the mapping process. First, we have created the custom field in Salesforce, add that to page layout in Salesforce, and we have created the custom field in Pardot and map that Pardot field to the Salesforce field. This is what we have done now. I think I have already explained the sync behavior option. You can use the Salesforce value, Pardot value, and the most recently updated record. By default, Salesforce value. If you haven't selected any of the values, the sync behavior uses Salesforce value for all the fields except the Pardot proprietary field. The Pardot proprietary fields is nothing but Pardot campaign, Pardot score, Pardot grade, like that. And the field type definitions. When it comes to the field type definitions, you have an option like radio button, checkbox, drop down, multi-select. These are all the field types you can use in Pardot. I think we have already created a custom field and map. This is how the field syncing capability works. By default, Salesforce will be the master for all the default fields except the Pardot proprietary fields. However, you can choose to make the Pardot the master for most other fields. On the right side, you can see that some of the field types which doesn't support in Pardot, lookups, it doesn't support in Pardot, formula, and now the record type is working. I think this is the old slide. Record type is working. Geolocation, we don't have an option to use the geolocation field type. Now we can use the phone as well. Text area rich, we can't use the text area rich. Out of this 6, we can't use geolocation and the formula. Here you can see, for example, if you go to any of the prospects in Pardot, if you go to Kale Johns, I think we don't have an option like that for him. We'll check for one more prospect. Craig writes. Here you can see that a cloud. This means that this person is already in Salesforce. If you go to this slide, you have an option like Twitter, LinkedIn. How we can capture this? If the prospect is using the same email address for this Twitter or LinkedIn, that will automatically capture since we have connected the full contact connectors. This will show like that. And at the last, you have an option like CRM lead field. If the prospect is lead only, you can see that lead value over lead ID over here. If he is converted to contact, you can see the contact ID. Here the record type is lead. And at the right side, what you're seeing, this is the layout which we have created now on Salesforce. We have added these are all the fields to the Salesforce. If anything happened moving forward between the Salesforce and Pardot, that data to sync from the Pardot to Salesforce automatically. At last, you can see the Pardot URL. If you click that URL in Salesforce, it will directly take you to the Pardot prospect list. By the end of this model, I think I have some questions. What I have done till now, that will going to answer for these questions, and this will help for the exam as well. Please read these questions once. I think we have done with the Salesforce integration. In the next class, we are going to start with administration. Thank you.